You already know what time it is. Today, I'm switching it up, and I got a Diet Dr. Pepper. By the title of this video, you already know I'm going to make some wild claims and stupid opinions. So let's just get right into it. Today, I'm going to talk about the JDM Kings of the 90s and where I personally rank them. Disclaimer, this is based on zero factual information, but more so just my surface level opinions. And I have done zero dedicated research to this prior, so let's get into it. Now, before I get into the actual list, I'm just going to make an honorable mention of the Subaru SVX because that is one weird looking car, but by God, it was designed by, I can't even pronounce the guy's name. It's like a G Guario or something crazy. Someone teach me how to pronounce it, but it looks crazy cool. And it's got the similar style windows that the McLaren Senna has in modern times. Now, let's talk about the kings of the JDM scene in the 90s. And yes, I've got my handy dandy cellular device here. So we've got the 300ZX from Nissan, Toyota Supra, of course. Then you've got the all-famed R34 Skyline from Nissan, in addition to the 300ZX. You do have the Mazda RX-7 and the Mitsubishi 3000 GT VR4. So let's get into the list. All right, so the last one on my list, I'm just going to be brutally honest. It's going to be the Skyline. Wow. Okay, personally, I think it's a good looking car, but I wholeheartedly believe that if, the Fast and Furious franchise didn't exist, this car wouldn't have any notoriety in the scene. Okay. Inline 6, that was turbocharged, thing is ridiculous. I will admit the power plant's nuts and you can build ridiculous power out of it. But the looks are okay. I mean, I think it's a decent looking car and the interior is par for the course, but for their price point now and collectability, I mean, people are paying almost 200 grand for imported R34s right now. It's just nuts. I don't see it, but I don't have to buy one, nor can I afford one. Next on the list, I'm going to put it right above it, but that's going to be the Supra. Okay. The Supra to me is just so overly hyped. It's ridiculous, right? I know the 2JZ is a wonderful engine. You can build tons of power out of it, but the Supra design, in my opinion, just looks so economy-like. Like if you told me it was a front-wheel drive like Prelude or, Celica or something, and yes, I know the Celica was, in line with the Supra in previous times. They had the Celica Supra, things like that. But anyways, it just looks a little too economy for me. And I know it was more of a Grand Tour than a genuine, dedicated balls-to-the-wall sports car. But the design was okay. It was a quick car by all measures. Don't get me wrong. I mean, 0 to 60, I think was what, high 4s, low 5s for a car in the early 90s when this thing came out. That was nuts. That was touching Ferrari times or right below it. So I give credit where it's due on that. But for me, prices for low mileage, all original twin turbo manual examples are crossing 6 figures. I just don't see the value there. Okay. I just think there's better ways on this list to spend that money. So let's go to the next one up. Okay. So now we've already hit on the Supra and the R34 Skyline and the Subaru SVX. Next one on the list, in my opinion, is going to be the RX-7. Wow. RX-7 for me is within the top 3. Okay. But the RX-7, to me, I love the styling of it. To me, it's so 90s, but it does look like a dedicated sports car. The rotary engine is fantastic, and there's a lot of tuning potential with it, and they sound nuts at WOT. But, my only gripe with the car is just literally the fact that Mazda didn't continue the greatness that was the RX-7. That is my main gripe with the RX-7. I think it's one of the best looking cars in the 90s. The power plant was fantastic. Tunability was fantastic. The interior was well laid out. Okay. Of course, with Mazda being technically an economy brand, the interior was definitely plastic fantastic, as was, the Supra and the, R34 Skyline, but they're all economy brands at the end of the day. RX-7 for me, design-wise, it was fantastic. Power plant was good. I put it at number 3. Number 2 for me is going to be the 300ZX. This car to me looks super exotic. I loved the design of it. The interior design for me, I actually really like because it was driver focused or driver centric, whichever you want to say. The oddity for me was the fact that so many controls are right around the steering wheel, which, at the time was actually pretty sweet. But my only gripe with this car is how difficult it is to work on. Okay. Power output, people have seen north of 300 horsepower stock, out of the twin turbo V6 that it has. but they are mechanical nightmares, and not necessarily because they're unreliable, but because that engine was slammed into that chassis. I mean, if you look at pictures of that motor, it looks like something from Jaguar because it is just so compact and slammed in there. However, that's all hearsay. I personally have never worked on one, nor probably will I ever, but that's just my take. Okay, performance was great on the 300ZX. It's an underdog, which I really like. It doesn't get too much love when it comes to the JDM Kings of the 90s. The design was exotic inside and out, and honestly, it's also cool because Lamborghini used the same headlights in their Diablo. Wow! Kind of sweet. And number one, my favorite car out of this entire list when it comes to JDM Kings of the 90s, but that is the Mitsubishi 3000 GT VR4. And hear me out. One, I love the design because it just reeks of sports car. It is like hot boy racer design inside and out, okay? Two, Mitsubishi has always been an underdog brand in the US. I know in Asia they're very popular, but in the US they never really got any love. Three, this car had active aero from the factory. Like, how ridiculous is that? I mean, active aero on a sports car, even nowadays, you know, like DRS and stuff like that is just almost unheard of. And this car had it in the 90s. I mean, that is just ridiculous. Now, next, the power plant, right? Twin turbo V6, you had all-wheel drive. I know it was a front-wheel drive bias, but still, Mitsubishi is really well known for their all-wheel drive systems. And this car does not disappoint, right? It had over 300 horsepower, if I'm not mistaken, or maybe in the high twos. Again, don't quote me. I really didn't look any of this up. Wow! Like, to get actual numbers, but it was a quick car. It was a fun car. The all-wheel drive system made it handle really well. And a lot of people loved the driving experience when they got to drive it because these things were, from what, you know, most people understand, kind of mechanical nightmares. They weren't the most reliable cars, but when they ran, it was just such a visceral driving experience. Get the manual transmission, all-wheel drive, turbo V6, active aero. I mean, it was a recipe for success. However, you know, at the time they were owned by Daimler Chrysler, if I'm not mistaken, and you know, you had the Dodge Stealth, which was pretty much the same car. And I wonder if there was there a third corporate triplet to it, or was it just those two? I don't know. Either way. So, I mean, materials were probably the cheapest at the time, but it was still just a nuts car. Every time I see a 3000 GT VR4 in person, I just like lose my mind, especially because nowadays they're still lower priced than say a Supra or R34, and you got similar driving experiences and, you know, performance value out of it. Maybe their prices will continue to go up. Maybe they'll just stay stagnant. Who knows? Either way, that's kind of my list for the JDM Kings. It's completely surface level. Nothing is technically factual about what I said as far as deeper details. That's my take. And it's a hot one. And I know people are going to disagree. And I can't wait for the R34 and super fanboys to get in on this because they're going to rip me apart. I'm here for it. So that's my hot take. I'm going to continue drinking Dr. Pepper. See ya.